The hardest things that you've gone through were designed for you, and they're going to get you to your absolute dream life, to true fulfillment, if you let it be what it's meant to be and surrender to the process and remember who you are in it and merge all the lessons with your life and move through it. And so today I'm going to share a little bit about my past and my experience of my hardest things that I've gone through, well, one of them. And so that's what I've been getting called to share with you today. And sorry if that plane or helicopter is loud. But yeah, I was getting the download of my meditation, like share a part of your past. And hopefully it's not too loud. So when I was 19 years old, I went through a very interesting experience. I was at a period of my life where I was very disconnected. I was partying a lot. I was doing a lot of drugs. I was in the midst of a really bad eating disorder, or like where I was really not in control with it. And that whole time was such an important time. That was the beginning of my spiritual awakening right there, because I was starting to feel a little bit of peace even in that, but because I was letting go of attachment, but I had gotten too far. I had let go of way too much. Like I had just become completely disassociated and wasn't listening to my inner truth, and was, of course, like going unconscious a lot with the partying and whatnot. And I started dating this guy too. We dated for 3 years, and he was a narcissist and was getting help for it and everything. And so we were partying together one night, and we were staying at somebody's house, and we were meant to sleep there. And I had blacked out that night, and all that I remember was coming into consciousness as we were flying off of a hill as I was driving, and we flipped 3 times, and the car stopped by the miracle of a little tree stump. The tree stump somehow brought us back onto the wheels, and we were okay. Like we could walk, there were no scratches, and we were able to come out. And of course, someone called the cops, and I walked the line and everything, and ended up going to jail. And what was happening after that was, it felt like my whole life was going to end there, right? The guilt and the shame was so real. It was the realest thing I've ever felt. I was embarrassed. I wanted to hide. I didn't tell anybody about what had happened. Like when I went back to school a few days later to my college town, I didn't tell anybody. I was like, except for like maybe my best friend, and I was just trying to hide the whole experience. I was like, it'll just go away. But it didn't, because then I started getting acne, like severe acne. I started having these neurological things, like all these symptoms started coming up, which I later found out was that I maybe in this physical world activated dormant Lyme disease. And so that was that whole, all those symptoms that came up. But from a spiritual perspective, it was because the shame and the wanting to hide was manifesting in my skin. And that was the first thing that I noticed, right? I used to hide behind my vanity through looks and whatever. And so that was taken from me, and I would try to hide with makeup, and then it wouldn't work because the acne was so severe. Like I would smile and start bleeding. Like it was a lot. But that's how I was feeling on the inside. And so it got to a point where it was like I could not go down that path of unconsciousness anymore. I wouldn't survive if I stayed on that for much longer. So this experience happened where, I had told myself too, I was like, even when I was partying a lot, I was like, I'll never get behind the wheel and everything. And I don't remember even making the decision. And I think that was the hardest part for a long time, was not even remembering making the decision. Like I felt like the choice wasn't even mine to destroy my life, but it really didn't destroy my life. It was the best thing to ever happen, because what happened from there was me starting to learn about health, right? How I had to heal my body. And a year after the accident, I had to spend a summer alone in my college town when everybody went home, doing community service. I was working, but also doing community service. The court allowed me to do community service at an animal shelter, where I got to spend a little bit of time with the animals, but really I was just there to like clean up dog shit and like do the dirty work. But I was starting to have this experience of understanding gratitude for the first time. Like, even though when I started working there, I was filled with so much shame and guilt and dealing with these symptoms and my acne, and like I was just like having the hardest time of my life, right? I felt so alone and so confused. I was like, I can choose gratitude. I can focus on the things that are going right. And what's going right is that I get to see these really adorable animals every day. And so I was like, this feels really good. Like, I'm gonna do this more. And then I started, like, when I would be washing dishes in the back, like dog bowls and stuff, I was like, I'm going to maybe start visualizing, like, what does it feel like to have like a community of real friendships and like doing things other than drinking, where we're like cliff jumping into beautiful bodies of water and like doing outdoorsy things. And like a few months later, I actually manifested that, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And so then I would go home and I would start watching these videos on spirituality, and like the YouTube algorithm was just pumping me with everything that I needed to have at that time, which is like, that's why I love YouTube so much. And then I would start I was starting to eat clean and eat whole foods, and my acne cleared, and I was like feeling super connected, and like I could even feel like the consciousness of like trees and plants and the foods that I was eating. And I was like, this is a trip. Like, I didn't even want to touch alcohol. I didn't want to touch anything that would take me out of this state. I was like, this is so much better than any drugs that I've ever done, and I was like having these really, really incredible things happening. And I started running a lot, like 6 miles a day, not because I wanted to be skinny or any of that. Like, I had just completely, it was like that disorder and those disordered ways of seeing myself had vanished. Like, it wasn't like I didn't have to go to like a facility or anything to get through it. It was like I had just no longer needed that. And so I was running because it felt good and I felt strong. And the whole time I'd be like feeling every bone in my body, like, I feel so good. And it was just this incredible experience, right? And so then even when I would be biking to the community service, to the animal shelter in the monsoons, because it's summertime in Arizona, Flagstaff, Arizona, so not too hot, but I would be, oops, my phone was full, so I had to erase some stuff. But I would be biking in these monsoons, and I'd be crying because I'd be like, this is so hard. Like, I don't even have a license anymore, and it's pouring rain, and I don't know how to take the bus, and like, you know. But even in those moments, I was like, I'm going to tell this story one day. Like, I am going to remember how I feel in this moment as I'm biking up the hill and like the biggest raindrops are slapping me in the face. This is what I have to go through in order to have a life that I love. And I am allowing this experience to happen. And so, like, I wish that I could like have a video of that, of me in that experience, because it felt so powerful yet so vulnerable and so powerless all at the same time. And so what happened after that was like years and years of like having that experience of the truth and knowing the truth and trying to like have the truth, but also like have my old life, like when people started coming back and like wanting to party and stuff. And I couldn't be happy by having these two things be separate. Like, I couldn't pretend to enjoy an unconscious life when I felt the magic of having a conscious life. And so when I finally decided to like merge the two and to embrace the truth of who I am, the truth that I know, and start speaking from that place and sharing it on here and sharing it within relationships and all of that, and choosing what my soul wants, like traveling Europe solo with my dog and choosing from that place, that's when I was like, oh, this is true happiness, this is true fulfillment. And so that all came about because all of this came about because I went through the hardest thing in my life, which was like the most shame and guilt and everything, and like something I felt like I could have never got. Like, when I was in it, the hardest days, especially with the illness, I was like, I don't know how I'll ever get through this. You know, I don't see the finish line, and that's the hardest part, because with Lyme disease, it's incurable. Like, there's no like actual cure that is proven to fix it. Like unless you catch it within the first 30 days, there's antibiotics that could maybe work, but that wasn't my case. And so going through that, as well as a byproduct of the experience of the crash, it was like, I just have to hold on to the knowing that when I learn all the lessons that I'm meant to learn from this experience, I will be free, and that it's all happening for me. And it is. And so everything that you're going through, all the hardest parts of your life that you're going through, it's happening for you. And as soon as you truly learn whatever it is that your soul needs to learn for its evolution, you will no longer become or be a vibrational match for the lesson that's happening. You won't be creating it more and more in new relationships and jobs and, you know, all these other circumstances. Like we keep repeating these patterns until we learn it. You won't have to do that anymore. And so just choose whatever you're moving through, choose to see the truth of it. Choose to remember who you are. You are this infinite being, this unconditional love, infinite abundance. You can have whatever you want. The shame and the guilt and the fear and the lack, none of that's real, right? That's the unconscious. And so when you can move through it, you are free to live the life of truth and allow yourself to merge your life of truth with your physical reality. And that's where you'll find true happiness and fulfillment. And so I hope that this message resonated. I hope that it makes sense. And if you're moving through something similar or you want to share a story, go ahead in the comments below. I am so grateful to have you here and to be showing up every single day and making videos of what I know to be the truth. And yeah, I don't know if I said this already, but give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you tomorrow.